This is where your questions are answered. And today we're going to be talking about if you're experiencing low testosterone levels. Obviously, this can be in both females and males. But for this live, we're going to be talking more about the male side of things when experiencing low testosterone levels. So I'm just going to wait a second for people to hop on here. And then we're going to start going through stuff. But anyways, what's up, Chandler? What's up? A couple people said they're going to make it on the live today. And I'm going to pre-frame this with, obviously, since we're talking about a touchy subject, I'm not a registered nurse practitioner or have any sort of medical degree that is recommending or prescribing anything when it comes to this topic. So a little disclaimer there. But I'm just going to give you a couple things from my experience with clients, as well as I am actually going to give you a personal story about my own endocrine system and some things that happened to me in the past and how I overcame it. I'll give you a couple different things, and then I will let you decide on what action to take from there. But it is very challenging when it comes to this subject, especially what I've noticed in the world of trying to find a family practitioner that will actually try and help you, because it is a gray area. It's not very much talked about when it comes to testosterone, just because a lot of family practitioners aren't knowledgeable enough, or they are, but it's just a touchy subject. You know what I mean? So anyways, let's just get started. What's up, Tom? What's up, Travis? So I just want to get started here. And essentially today we're going to talk about if you have been experiencing symptoms of low testosterone as a male. And when it comes to that, you might not know that you actually have low testosterone. I know that I didn't at the time. This was probably about 3, maybe 4 years ago. I was in, it's been a while. Yeah, about 3 or 4 years ago. And I actually wish I had my blood work. I can actually screen share with you guys right now, but I didn't come prepared with that. Maybe next time, because I can have a more direct and more specific approach when it comes to a pituitary tumor, but I'll get more into that later. As a male, you might not know that you have low testosterone. I feel like us as guys, as males, we, especially if we're more of a provider mentality or a personality, we just need to get things done. And if there's some obstacles or whatever, it doesn't matter. We just get it done. And even if we feel like crap, it becomes our new normal on our day-to-day. But it's really not the case. There really might be an issue there. And so when it comes to experiencing low testosterone, you might be experiencing just low energy in general. You might be experiencing low sex drive. You might be just super sore after working out. Maybe even your sleeping patterns, or you're just kind of going into almost like a depressive state. All those things could be happening, and you could be experiencing some low testosterone. Now, obviously, I preface this with, if you are a huge alcoholic, or you're eating all these processed foods and all these other things that might be like contributing to like low energy levels and all that kind of stuff, then yeah, I would probably start by just cleaning up your diet. And if you're still not feeling better, then this is kind of a direction I like to go with clients, is because blood work usually will show all. Not all the time, because there is other stuff of how our body metabolizes things, and different tests, even if our levels are in range with our blood panel, if we're getting a CBC, or then diving into like sex hormones, they might show in range, but actually there's still a problem of the process of things converting down the chain. And then we might need to look at getting like a Dutch test. And that will help, as well as a lot of the hormonal stuff will start in the gut. And if we might have some digestive issue or something like that, it's also good to get something like a GI map done or something like that. But if we're experiencing low testosterone, like I said, low sex drive, low energy, kind of a depressive state as a guy, we're just not driven. If you're having erectile dysfunction, stuff like that, that is definitely a thing. And I personally actually experienced that heavily when I, about 3 or 4 years ago, I didn't notice that things were really going wrong until that point, when I was, like 20 years old. And and having erectile dysfunction. So that's my personal experience. But anyways, here's what we're going to do. If you have been experiencing some of that stuff and you've been wondering, maybe I need to get my blood levels checked. That's great. Now, when you go to a family practitioner and you say, hey, I want to get my blood drawn. I want to see, I just been feeling these symptoms. Can I get my testosterone checked? They will probably say, I mean, yeah, we can, but I mean, you look healthy from your CBC in the past 6 months ago when you got it done, or your physical that you got done, or whatever. I would strongly suggest pushing that. And if your doctor is not communicating with you, or at least meeting you halfway, meaning they're just kind of dictating the situation and don't want to deal with it, I would strongly suggest to push this, as well as maybe even look into a different practitioner. I have nothing against doctors and all that stuff. Obviously, they're a huge part of the medical, the industry as a whole. But the thing is if you feel like there's a problem and somebody's telling you that you're fine, like I said, it's never a problem to wonder and to ask questions. I feel like more people should ask more questions. So I would make sure and get things tested, and not just our testosterone. So when it comes to testosterone, there's total testosterone, free testosterone, and there's conversion stuff down the chain with like dihydrotestosterone. But we need to, what I would probably, if it was me, like what I get personally would be our total testosterone, free testosterone, your estradiol. These are just general terms first, because I'm not going to go dive deep into more specifics. That's a very like dynamic kind of process. But total testosterone, free testosterone, your estradiol. I would also see about your vitamin D. You want to look at your lipids and your cholesterol, things like that. And just to get like the general stuff when it comes to your sex hormones. And then from there, you can kind of see if you need additional blood work, or that might just tell you in general first, maybe what's going on. So if you get that panel done so you got your CBC, you got your sex hormones, stuff like that. And even if you want to include thyroid, that's very good too. Your TSH, if you want to include T4 and T3, you can see how that converts. But those are also good to get. And the thing is sometimes insurance won't pay for these certain things. So that's why I kind of take it with a grain of salt. Make sure you kind of look into the pricing if you have each additional thing, if insurance isn't covering it. But also there's some online, there's some places that you can get full blood work done. From what I'm seeing, it's about $275 to $300 for this huge panel. But the thing is, if you're not really working with a practitioner or something like that, if there is a problem, then you can't like get something prescribed to you if you need. So I would obviously find somebody. I actually have a phenomenal specialist for my team or my clients that I refer them to, because she's awesome. She's licensed and everything like that. And then she's able to prescribe things if needed. But we like to always go the holistic, the more natural route first. So, and that's what we're going to dive into next. So if we have blood work come back, and let's say that our total testosterone, we'll just start there, and that's going to range. There's a range that they put you in, and the bad part is the range is so big that I feel like it's just trying to encompass the whole population as a whole, but each individual is so different when it comes to this. And what I mean by that is that range could be, if you're getting it through, say, like LabCorp is where I get my blood drawn, and that range could be like, I think it's 250 at the lowest, maybe it's 300 at the lowest total test, all the way up to, say, 1200. Well, that's a huge range, right? And so let's say that Bob over here gets tested and he feels like crap, and he has 400 total test levels, right? And you have Jimmy over here that gets tested with 400 test levels, but he feels great. Well, they're both in that range, but obviously Bob is not feeling good and there's a problem, and Jimmy, I think I called him, Jimmy is totally fine at that total testosterone level. And that's where that individualization comes into play with each person, right? And so that's why, from my own experience, to bring up my own story, everything was destroyed in my endocrine system. I mean, my estrogen was destroyed, my my testosterone was destroyed, my thyroid was destroyed, everything was destroyed, but it was the stem root of having a pituitary tumor, so a tumor on my pituitary gland, and it's called prolactinoma, and essentially it just increased the production of prolactin in the body, which is an antagonist to testosterone production. So it just started like shutting down all my other feedback loops, which we'll get into in a second. But anyways, so with that though, I went and saw a family practitioner, right? They got us blood work. They said, hey, just have some more omega-3s in your diet. You're probably super stressed, get some more sleep, clean up your diet. Mind you, at the time, like I used to be bro science, eating like the same stuff, the clean foods every single day. That's where I like started at my fitness journey. So I was eating like the healthiest things possible. Yes, I was taking omega-3s, all that stuff. Thanks, bro. 50 cents much. But anyways, I was doing all that already, and I was exercising, I was eating right, all that. And they said, we'll just give it time, give it another 6 months and see if your body naturally will start firing its feedback loops to start producing your natural production of testosterone. I said, well, I'm exhausted every day. I got to a point where I was sleeping 12 hours. I kid you not, it was like 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And I remember I was going to college, and like I just barely would only wake up to make it to class. I probably smelled terrible, but like hygiene wasn't the most important thing. It was like sleeping, and then during the day, I would fall asleep during class, as well as between classes. I would try to find somewhere to take a nap too. It was terrible, as well as I honestly became like depressed. My training, I was so sore that I actually had to like reduce the amount of training I could do. And then I didn't even try to do a caloric deficit because things just weren't working. I just tried to maintain what I was doing. But anyways, that family practitioner though, I'm not gonna say names or anything like that because I totally get like they are going by the book, but they said you're fine. Your levels are my levels were like 300 at the time, which is like literally the lowest on that range. So they said, oh, you're fine. Give it some time. Well, I gave it some time, and I ended up getting referred to an endocrinologist, which specializes in hormones, right? And got my blood drawn. and it took 6 months to even get in to see an endocrinologist. And the blood work came back the same. I still felt the same. They said the same thing. There could be, and by that time, actually, though, I was experiencing now erectile dysfunction, and for like at least 3 months. And I said, well, I was 19 or 20 at the time, I think. And I said, well, I'm 19 years old. Is this normal that I can't get an erection? And they said, well, there's different mechanisms. Now I understand. But back then I didn't. There's different mechanisms of the signaling, the blood flow, and all this different stuff when it comes to that. And I said, okay, well, cool. Well, I didn't want to feel like that anymore. So luckily I had a friend, and now I've been working with her, and she manages my team, like I said, for the last 4 years when a guy needs this type of treatment. But we did some more testing and found out that no, I am not okay. And by that time, my total test levels crashed to, I think it was 87 total testosterone. Not free, total. Free testosterone was non-existent. Estradiol was non-existent. So anyways, the moral story on this first part is if there's a problem, it's okay to ask questions, and somebody's telling you just don't worry about it, don't worry about it. Like, you need to get a second opinion. Get a second opinion for sure. And so that's the first process. And if you see that your testosterone is in range, but it's on the lower side and you're not feeling good, then get a second opinion. Okay, for sure. If your levels are below range, that is a direct thing to attack, because now you know there is a problem, and that's what we're going to get into next. Now, I always like to go the holistic approach first. Okay, what I try to stay away from any sort of prescription stuff or pharmaceutical stuff. I always like to stay with the natural stuff first. So what you can do is obviously you can try, and if you are a person that has high stress on the day-to-day, if you drink a lot of alcohol, if you have eat a lot of processed foods, like chronically over years, that probably contributed to your problem now, honestly. And if you're getting older, that obviously is a factor. But what you can start with is using natural supplementation, as well as the main thing is to cut out the processed foods, to start exercising, to not drink alcohol, like the simple things everybody says, oh, do this and be healthy. It's like, yeah, do that and be healthy. Like start seeing if that works and start making you feel better and see if it starts naturally coming up. But with the supplementation, there are things out there that I like to use. There's obviously like what you see as natural testosterone boosters. So there's different like amino acids. So like there's D-aspartic acid, there's tribulus teres. There's a couple different things, but I really like to look into, especially if you're a high stress person, would be adaptogens. This goes with like, for example, ashwagandha, KSM 66. There you go. That or rhodiola rosea. You can even go into, it's kind of away from that, but you can use different like maca root and stuff like that. There's multiple different supplementations out there, as well as I would also very strongly look at that vitamin D and your cholesterol and everything like that. And if most people, I see a lot of people, especially in the northern region, the United States or in the world, where the daylight really comes and starts shortening up in the fall, winter, and early spring, and they're in the dark. I see those people's vitamin D levels actually pretty low regularly. And you kind of feel like in that depressive state, right? It's because it's like cold, it's dark, all that. But the main thing is the vitamin D you're not getting from sunlight. So that's where I start too. Is people say like 1,000 to 1,000 IUs of vitamin D a day. Honestly, with people in that northern hemisphere, I bump that up, especially in the very beginning, and get your body like functioning, and then you can drop it back down. You obviously don't want to like push it too far up because it is a fat soluble vitamin, fat soluble vitamin, excuse me, and you don't want like any toxicity or anything like that. But I really see that it's hard to do, especially if you have experienced, like if you have very low vitamin D levels. I mean, we'll push them even as high as 10,000 IUs a day for like no more than really a week, but then drop it down. But anyways, I would do that. And then you can use that natural supplementation, start exercising, clean up your diet. That should start contributing to you starting to feel better. Now, if you are not feeling better after probably 4 weeks or so, then I would say that there is a problem that's stemming from the signaling to create testosterone, which means that you didn't get this on your initial blood work, but it would be LH and FSH, meaning luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. Those are the things that are going to be kind of showing you what your feedback loops are doing, because actually it's going to be regulated by your estrogen. So testosterone aromatizes and it converts into estrogen. So if your, let's say testosterone is low and your estrogen's in range, your body created like a homeostasis with those levels, then it's not going to produce any more testosterone because your estrogen is in range, right? So that means that we need to not trick, but we just need to manipulate the feedback loops in order to have our body naturally start producing more testosterone. And this is getting into the route of actually talking to your physician or hormonal specialist about two different routes. One would be testosterone replacement therapy, or using more what bodybuilders would call a PCT protocol, but it's more so just using certain fertility drugs to start getting those feedback loops in the correct order to start having your natural production start coming back up. So the two different routes, what I go through with clients, with, like I said, the TRT or the kind of the fertility drugs, really depends on the client. I always like to start with the fertility drugs, which would be like SERMs, what are called selective estrogen receptor modulators, that route, and maybe some HCG or something like that. That is the first route, just because once you kind of commit to the testosterone replacement therapy, which is like a huge no-no in a gray area and not talked about in the in the medical industry because it's steroids and you're getting all this stuff. No, I mean, it's really not like that. Like if your testosterone levels are low, it's actually going to contribute to like unhealthy stuff for the body, like long term. So having your testosterone levels in range is actually going to make you more healthy. Crazy. So I always say though that if you make that commitment to TRT, then you're going to have to pretty much do that the rest of your life. And so that kind of dictates like where are you at in life. If you're like a guy that's like 55, he's not going to have any more kids. He wants to get his levels up. It's like a tried and true, like make sure that they're in range, feeling better. Then yeah, you can go the TRT route. Now, obviously you have to inject testosterone, but you can also use a cream, probably daily or bi-daily or whatever, that will work. I've seen those work. It just depends on your absorption to it, but you're going to have to commit to that, right? And that's a thing in itself for most people. So I always try to like lay out all the different options, right? So first, though, as I try to talk about the fertility drugs, especially with like younger males, because if they haven't had kids yet, just staying fertile, but also just not having to do all that stuff. We look into, like I talked about, selective estrogen receptor modulators, which are the most common one that I would say that is used, at least by my specialist, would be like clomiphene, or AKA in the bodybuilding industry would be called Clomid. Now, what that is it's a drug that will not allow estrogen to bind on to the receptors in the body. So then what it will do is make your body think that you don't have as much estrogen as you do, right? So when we have our body thinking we have lower estrogen, like I said before, our testosterone production is regulated by the estrogen. So if our body thinks we have low estrogen, it's going to start signaling to produce more testosterone. So then it thinks that it can aromatize with an aromatase enzyme that testosterone into estrogen to get your estrogen levels back in range. But we already have enough estrogen. We just want more testosterone. We're just kind of manipulating that feedback loop to have our body start producing more testosterone. Hopefully that makes sense. You can put in the comments. I mean, that's pretty dynamic there. It's pretty, there's a lot of moving parts here. But essentially, that's the route. You can also use things like HCG, like I said. That's more of like straight fertility. You'll see people that are trying to get pregnant and they just can't. Maybe the male has some fertility problems or something like that. Or the female actually as well. They'll use HCG. But from my experience, like I always start at the bare minimum and going the route of using something like just clomiphene, depending on like you got to do it the correct way too, timeline, dosage, all that kind of stuff. But that's the natural route of trying to get your natural production going. And when diving into using pharmaceutical stuff, if the natural route of supplementation and diet changes and training and all that stuff, decreasing stress, if you've kind of encompassed and conquered that, but it's still not working, this is that first route. And then the last route, like I said, would be testosterone replacement therapy. So using testosterone replacement therapy will end on the last one. So everybody thinks, like I said, it's like steroids. It's really just using an exogenous form of a hormone that your body already needs and has produced in the past, but maybe it's just not now. And so the goal here isn't to put you in super physiological range, in a super physiological range for your blood work, meaning above that 1200 total test or whatever. That's not the goal, because we're not trying to like go to super physiological levels for what, like bodybuilders in the enhanced world will do that obviously to grow muscle mass, but we're trying to be healthy. We're not trying to put more stress or risk to raise our red blood cell count or be hard on the heart or all that kind of stuff, right? So we just want to put ourselves in range. And honestly, I really feel like guys can get a lot out of a little. I've had most of the time when we have clean up everything with nutrition and training and stress and all that, and then we maybe supplement with TRT. The standard dose that you would see in the industry for like the medical world would be like 200 milligrams of testosterone cypionate per week. But the reality of it is I actually see guys go into super physiological levels, like above that 1200, using that dose. So we actually back it down to 150, sometimes 125 milligrams per week when doing so. And they feel great. They get their range up. I try to shoot for around 800, honestly, 7 to 800, and seems to be like a decent spot for most people. Well, not decent, it's a really good spot. But as long as we're kind of above that 500, I feel like people really start feeling better. But like I said, there is outliers and stuff where guys feel good at 300 to 400 total tests, and they're fine. And that's totally cool. I wouldn't change a thing. This is just for if you're having those symptoms like I talked about, right? So when it comes to that, I'll kind of end here because I've been talking about this a lot. But when it comes to utilizing, if you choose to go the route of using testosterone replacement therapy, now you want to make sure, like I said, that relationship with that provider is strong and open when it comes to things, because then during that process, you just need to make sure that you're monitoring your estradiol, how other hormones are affected during that process, just because our whole entire hypothalamus, like the production of hormones, all the feedback loops kind of play together, right? And so, for example, if you start supplementing with testosterone replacement therapy and your testosterone raises, but then our aromatase enzymes start upregulating and start converting that testosterone into estrogen, obviously that's not good for a male. Start experiencing different side effects that you probably don't want to, more female-like side effects with our estrogen raising. So then we need to look at how do we control that, and we can use, like I said, we can use aromatase enzyme or aromatase inhibitors, like anastrozole. That's probably the most common and the cheapest one to use. People have different opinions on that, just with like long-term use of that being hard on the body or not. I mean, I think that if you're using a low dose, you're fine. But anyways, you want to control that, as well as maybe your testosterone comes up, but then it maybe starts going down the other chain and starts converting into DHT, or you start having more what's called androgenic side effects, meaning like that male pattern baldness, acne, all that good fun stuff. And we don't want that either. So then there is some natural supplementation that you can use to kind of combat that. I don't see a lot of times that there needs to be pharmaceutical like drugs to combat that. I think that using something like saw palmetto is the best option, and just kind of maybe dosing it high for a second and then kind of tapering it, and then just keep a steady intake of it daily. But yeah, anyways, so that was a hell of a lot of information. And like I said, there was a disclaimer at the beginning. I'm not a licensed physician, not giving any recommendation or you should be doing this or prescribing you this or whatever. I'm just giving you my experience with coaching, and I found that coaches need to become more knowledgeable in this because it's becoming a very prevalent thing. Instead of just knowing about your nutrition with your like macros and calories, and then maybe like how many sets to do during your workout. Like this has really allowed me to grow because you actually are understanding how the body works internally in order to produce the healthiest individual. And I just feel like it's not talked about enough. So that's just my experience, my personal story, what I see with clients. I'm going to open it up with some questions because we've been going for a while, I think about 30 minutes. And that was a lot of information to digest. But if you are a guy that you're just like wondering like, man, why do I feel like crap? Like, why am I so sore all the time? Like, why do I not have a drive? Maybe why am I like having erectile dysfunction or like problems getting an erection? Like all that stuff. It sounds like saying it out loud, and if you're in front of people, like it might come off as embarrassing. But the reality of it is, I don't think so at all. I think that to have the ability to voice it or to like actually take action on it, my main goal with every single person is to provide the healthiest outlook on life, right? And if you are struggling day to day and you try to make it your new normal, like you only get one life, you only get one body. So we want to make sure and try to obviously live the best life we can, right? And I really think that the main thing when I help guys get their testosterone levels up, and then they start losing body fat, they start building more muscle, They start feeling, but like the main thing I get when I have like a guy that's 50 years old or older, and maybe we really spend some time fixing that. The initial response after about 4 to 8 weeks, when everything kind of starts stabilizing or getting in the bloodstream, is holy cow, I feel like I'm in my 20s again. Like, what would it mean to feel like you're in your 20s again, right? And live that sort of outlook, rather than feeling like I'm gonna die soon, or like I'm just waiting for this to be over, or I'm just depressed. Like that doesn't sound fun, right? And so that's why I like to really dive into this, is because I feel like you can almost restart your outlook on life, of being just fixing a few things that you might not even thought of, right? Just because nobody talks about it, and so that's why I'm here. Anyways, what's up, London? What's up, Brad? What's up, Joseph? Everybody's coming on. What's up, Sean? Cool. So if you have any questions, put in the comment box over here. Oh, yeah, let's go. We have some on Facebook. Trey, 70% of men now have low T. I don't know. Maybe not. How do you test your T? So how do you test your T? Like I kind of went through that previously. You can go on replay, but just get your blood levels checked. Total testosterone, free testosterone, simplest way. Probably have low T. Where did you get that stuff? Yeah, I don't know if you guys are just messing around or whatever in the comments, but you can go and you should be able to ask your primary physician, like, hey, I want to get these levels tested. And like I said, if they like, now you don't need it, we'll get a second opinion, go somewhere else. There's labs online. Like I said, trying to think of the one that will allow you to just get a script to go in and get blood work. Can't think of it off the top of my head right now because I use LabCorp and I get my script sent in from a physician, obviously. What's up, Joseph? So yeah, do you guys have any questions? We're gonna end this here. Been going for a while. Hey, thanks for the support. 50 Shades of Fudge. Jordan, what's up? Cool. So looks like people don't really have questions here. If you do have questions, go watch the video again and then like shoot me a DM if you haven't having problems. Maybe my approach, my thoughts. Like I said, I'm not a licensed physician when it comes to stuff or an endocrinologist or anything. I've just really had a lot of experience with clients that are needing it, so I was forced to learn, right? So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Yay, thanks, Tom. Great stuff. Good knowledge, brother. Hey, I appreciate it. Hopefully it was helpful because I know we worked on that stuff, and I know that it's really beneficial for guys to change their whole outlook on life. No, it did for me because I was down in the dumps. Took way too long to figure out my own situation. And now afterwards, it literally gave me a different perspective on life to actually live life rather than to try and just survive. That's essentially the switch that I often see as well with clients. So anyways, if you are a guy that has more questions about this because you think you might be experiencing low T, shoot me a DM and we're going to go through what I would do. We'd go through maybe somebody I need to refer you to or whatever. If you're looking to go even further and really just optimize your health, look into my private coaching. We will set out a complete game plan with what you need to be doing with your nutrition, your training. And on top of that, we're going to teach you the 3 pillars. So you're not going to sacrifice the foods that you love, meaning I don't do restrictive dieting protocols. I don't do meal plans, none of that stuff. I'm actually going to make a t-shirt. Let me know in the comments, but I'm going to make a t-shirt that says, I don't follow a meal plan. And I'm going to try to diet and be super lean. And I'm going to say, I don't follow a meal plan. So people look at me and they say, what? He doesn't follow a meal plan. How does he look like that? Well, it's because we need to understand how the body works, guys. That's what I teach on this channel. And it's more of a flexible approach, a lifestyle approach. And that's what my private coaching offers. So if that sounds interesting to you, visit my website, www.apperform.com. and fill out an application, schedule a call with me. We'll go through a complete game plan for you specifically, and we'll talk about the coaching part of it. I'll pitch some prices depending on what you need, and then we'll move forward and get started. So anyways, I'm going to wrap this up, though. Thanks, guys, for watching. We'll talk to you next time.